for joining us.
Talkline Network Radio, America's longest-running Jewish broadcast network, the voice of the Jewish community.
Welcome to the podcast. You are now tuned in to this episode of our podcast. Today, we are going to interview some of the greatest and most influential minds in our field. And now, please welcome your host.
You're listening to Talkline with Zev Brenner, America's premier Jewish broadcast on the air since 1981.
And we're back. You know, I know the Wilds family for so many years. I've interviewed our guest brother, Rabbi Mark Wilds, who's the founding rabbi of MJ, Manhattan Jewish Experience, his father, who wrote a book about the Beatles. And it's about time we give equal time to Michael Wilds. He's Michael Wilds Esquire. He's the mayor of Englewood, New Jersey. He also is an author, very well known. He's actually, I should call him the immigration lawyer to the start, because he has a who's who of who's out there in the United States, and Judaism, you name it, whether it's Lionel Richel or Rabbi Jonathan Sachs or Boy George or Maxwell, Dolly Parton. I'm just name dropping some of the famous people he's represented, including the president's mother-in-law. So welcome to the program. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure, Zev. It's nice to see you. I know you only about 100 years. If they got all the rings in your hand. That's right.
You do amazing work, and you're also a lecturer at Tour College, I should say it as well. So, Cardozo, which, right, that's part of Yeshiva University. I shouldn't equate the two because I can get sued. But I have a good lawyer here. So here's a question for you. Since President Donald Trump has come back into office, I would assume it's much more difficult to practice immigration law. You tell me. Or has it picked up because of so many other cases of people who want to stay here?
So just to correct the record, I happen to be Mrs. Trump, Melania Trump, the First Lady's immigration lawyer, her parents, her sister. I handled the president's immigration matters, Miss Universe, Trump models, the Kushners, and a lot of other people in their world for many years. I'm still a proud Democrat and very much attuned as a former federal prosecutor myself to the value of cleaning up America from those that would want to cause us harm. The problem is, Zev, that the greatest risk takers and entrepreneurs have always found themselves on our shores, and a lot of wonderful people, particularly from our Kehillah, are being scooped up also. And we're talking about Canadians, Israelis, French, Moroccans, and so forth, that are being placed inadvertently or purposefully in removal proceedings more than what people expected. So we can expect that as this president tries to make America great in his perception, at the same time, there's a lot of tumult that's being done in all communities throughout the United States. And that has given a lot of talented immigration lawyers a lot of work.
So you're busier than ever because of all the policies.
And going into federal courts and immigration courts and getting woken up in the middle of the night, and people literally on Shabbos being told, go to immigration 7 a.m. and I got to find a non-Jewish lawyer who's willing to get in there and accompany the person, because we know he's going to get arrested, or we might be able to defray it. And you have to see us in action, because we've stopped people from getting arrested, and the calls are still coming in, even from top people surrounding the president himself, because this is filtering down. When they realize, when they threw out the net, that there aren't as many bad people in this country, and that a lot of good people are being caught in it. And if they have a quota of 3,000 per day, which, mind you, will only give them a drop in the bucket in the next 4 years, a lot of good people are going to be rocking and rolling. And that means it's going to have a residual effect in our communities, Zev, where years ago I used to caution people, don't take your housekeeper with you to Arizona. You can actually be brought up on criminal charges in certain states, particularly Florida, if you transport people. We saw a foolish family, a frum family in Florida, gave their housekeeper a car as a gift. She had no driver's license. Immigration got a call from the police after she was pulled over, and she's been removed already from the United States.
Wow. So did they get in trouble for giving her a car?
They're going after the car now because it was used in furtherance of transporting a smuggler. Helping a smugglee is actually a criminal act. believe it or not. So if somebody's in your home and they're working with a broom, it's a different experience. You now take them interstate, you've crossed lines.
Amazing. Now, are there Israelis also, I'm sure, and Russian Jews who are being caught up? Let's look at some
And
of that.
rabbis and rebbitzins and religious studies teachers, couples in all kinds of issues where they go to Puerto Rico, they go to a bridge by Niagara Falls, and they make a turn inadvertently out of the country, and they find themselves in harm's way. So for those of your listeners with accents, make sure you have a good immigration lawyer who will take your call in evenings and weekends and not charge you by the hour.
Right. She must be very busy. Now, you mentioned before about getting calls on Shabbos. Were these from Jews that were about to be arrested or arrested on Shabbos?
No, this is immigration having hearings Saturday mornings in the federal building, calling in clients to make appearances. And we know the early morning calls really makes it easy on them. It kind of portends a sense of laziness that they don't even want to go out and get the person. They're just going to call them into the building, and they bring their numbers up by putting handcuffs on them in a federal building.
Wow. So things are changing now. You foresee this going on for the next 3.5 years during the Trump presidency? You think it's going to change somewhat? Because you mentioned there are a lot of good people that are being caught up.
If President Trump had his druthers and kept to these statistics, it would be 2-3 million people. By estimates, is more than 25 million people here. So I don't see, since they haven't increased the amount of judges, which is a sign of a lack of due process, there being a remarkable experience. But let me kind of set the stage a little bit, Zev, if I can.
Sure.
We once had a president, President Reagan, who was a Democrat growing up, became a Republican later. And when he saw there were 3 million people here unlawfully in the country, he then said, anybody who can prove in 1986, if you can prove you came here illegally before January 1 of 82, I'm going to give you a green card. And then he created the I-9s, shifting the responsibility from the government to employers to then police immigration in their workforce. That was 3 million people, where by estimates more than 25 million in the queue now. I want you to understand, in those days, people did not trust the federal building. They didn't want to go there because they were afraid of what we're seeing now. They would be arrested. President Reagan had to open up on 24th Street in the West Side, separate buildings for these 3 million people to get work authorization because they thought it was a ruse. This was a Republican president who gave green cards to 3 million people because he understood the economics. That, again, these are risk takers and entrepreneurs. And despite the fact that we need to be safe, we also need to invest in this workforce. This is a workforce that will pick blueberries in Georgia, make beds in our hotels, and will pledge their allegiance to our flag, no matter if they pray on a Friday, a Saturday, or a Sunday. Look how we've deteriorated. And the law of the land, by the way, is still those I-9s that Reagan set into place, where we're punishing the employer. It's biblical import. We're going to punish the employer, take away his straw so he can't even make bricks for not doing a good enough job of policing immigration. And I have to tell you, I see the schizophrenia. I see the fighting between employers and employees, where vendors and all sorts of relationships now are at great risk because people are trying to blame somebody else, and they're scared. They don't understand the notion of enforcement, due process, and these landmark things. I had to, at the time when I represented Mrs. Trump's family, explain that chain migration isn't monkeys with a tail in a jungle trying to help 30 relatives. It's a beautiful bedrock of immigration policy, where the First Lady herself could get the babysitting services of her parents, knowing that they're citizens and that they themselves would have the right to be here, that we can get a status and then bring in our loved ones, love and work harder, and develop a real base. That's what our founding documents and our parents envisioned, not that we would punish people in a puritanical sense, but that we would really build this country.
So let me ask this question. Obviously, 3 million people under Ronald Reagan's watch was a lot of people, but 25 million people is a tremendous number. Are you suggesting that we give them green cards?
I have great solutions, and I just submitted my second manuscript to my book from origin to opportunity, unlocking U.S. immigration law. The Bar Association will be publishing it soon. Stay tuned. All I can say is we need a better solution. Listen, Zev, we could take the politics out of this by just saying the next generation of 10 years, they won't vote, so that neither Democrat and Republicans won't get the benefit politically out of this. There's so many ways to do this. And I have to tell you that I myself have done a renaissance. Years ago, right after the 9/11 attacks, I didn't feel that foreign nationals should have driver's license. The very instrumentality of the World Trade Center attacks, where they had valid or invalid passports and they can get on planes, offended me. But then when I became a mayor and I began to realize that in Trenton and in Albany and the state houses and in Washington, we weren't getting the resource that we needed because there's so many people living in our cities, it's actually smart to have driver's licenses and insurance and have a good accounting of who's there so that we can accommodate everybody. And I remember dining with my late father and Mayor Koch, Zichronim Levracha, and I sat with them, and the mayor said to me at the time, listen, Michael, until they got the National Guard pulling people out to have them deported, my job is to educate people. My job as a mayor, my job as an advocate, my job as a Jew is to make sure that we love the stranger and that we make ourselves safe, but at the same time, we affect things properly with due process. I don't see that happening, and it's really an abomination right now, Zev. We would be embarrassed to tell half of the stories that are going on in our office right now, and I'm hoping that it'll pass.
Our guest is Michael Wiles, Esquire. He is the immigration lawyer to the stars and celebrities, but also to the average person. And we'll talk about the fact that some of them include, he's been working to help former Israeli hostages that are here in the United States as well. He's represented Boy George and Lionel Richie, as well as Rabbi Jonathan Sachs. His first book is called Safe Haven, and we're looking at immigration in today's day and age. You're also the Democratic mayor of Englewood, New Jersey. Now, Alan Dershowitz wrote a foreword to your book, and we've had Alan on our program many times, and he basically said he's no longer a Democrat. He can no longer be part of the Democratic Party because of how they are vis-a-vis Israel, vis-a-vis Jews. They're anti-Semitic. So let me ask you a question. You're a Democratic mayor. Will you follow in Alan Dershowitz's footsteps and renouncing and leaving the Democratic Party because they're moving so far away from really representing Jewish people?
I feel in many ways my party is tone deaf, and I'm very disappointed. I have to be honest with you. I'm more conservative in my politic internationally. I represent Bibi Netanyahu's son and a lot of other people that are dealing in the war with Hamas, the October 7 attacks and everything alike. We did a visa for Eli Shirabi and Andrei Krylov. I didn't charge a nickel.
Being a hostage, former hostage.
We had to get them visas in order to work and collect money when they go speak at forums and things like that. And I didn't charge them a nickel for this. And, you know, I have to tell you, it is ridiculously disappointing, but no different than the Tea Party hijacking the Republicans. I would be not respected if I abandoned ship unless I had no place to go. I believe and pray that the party will reconstitute its brain. And don't kid yourself. I've stood up to my party leadership where I've had to, and I walked to my own beat. I didn't come into politics and I'm serving my 5th term. I'm the longest serving mayor of the city of Englewood by just conforming to a political party. I don't get my livelihood, my parnassa, from the kind of affiliations that I have politically. It comes from people who can't even contribute to me, foreign nationals and all of that. And frankly speaking, the notion of Torah Mada, that is the clarion call of Yeshiva University, being ensconced in the world of professionalism and Torah, is the thing that keeps me apolitical, not right, not left, not Democrat, not Republican, but on the right derech. And that is to use common sense and seichel, something we've abandoned in the New York mayoral race, and something that we will continue to abandon if all we do is kvetch and not take seats at the table.
But the Democratic Party has left you and left people like Alan Dershowitz. So you're still a Democratic mayor. You may not like the party, but you're still part of the group. That's why I know it's a tough decision.
Yeah, very tough, very tough. And I have to tell you, it was very awkward for me years ago when I was running for office, and they would put pictures of me and Mrs. Trump on literature, and holding tiki torches showing that the mayor actually wants to get people deported and he's a bigot and he's the Trump lawyer and all of that. But I, again, believe that that pendulum kind of swings to one side and to the other. We see that in the immigration space, where post 9/11, we were very concerned about homeland security, to the liberalization of our economy over time. I think politics will find itself with resonance. I have to say that I'm very disappointed. I used to host the beacons of our party, from Ted Kennedy to John Lewis, to scores of former governors in my law office. And I have yet to feel and see somebody that I would want to host, other than the people that I'm told that I ought to host. But I am a dreamer, and you can say I'm not the only one, because I believe that we need strength in both parties. And having grown up in Forest Hills, I was an auxiliary police officer. I was a federal prosecutor for 4 years at the U.S. Attorney's Office in Brooklyn, the office that prosecuted John Gotti at the time. I believe that the clarion call of the Democratic Party, but the Scoop Jackson Party, not the party that we're seeing these days. I concur, and I want to be part of rebuilding it. If I abandon ship, then the party will go from bad to worse.
I think it's going from bad to worse. Maybe a long time, if ever, if it gets back to what it was. But the AOCs and the Rashid Tlaibs and others are really dictating where the party is going, unfortunately.
No Republican getting elected in my region in Bergen County in New Jersey with substance. And I, again, am a principled voter and decision maker and an advocate. And I will roll up my sleeves and do what I have to see my party right its ship.
You're doing a good job as Anglo Mayor, of course, as immigration lawyer to the stars. Talk to me, Ghislaine Maxwell. She's in the news lately. You had represented her a number of years ago.
I think she may have consulted with us, and again, there's nothing public about anything with her. I've had a significant cadre of clients. My father represented John Lennon. Our practice represented Joe Cocker, believe it or not, as opposed to Alta Cocker at this station, and a score of other important people, Sinead O'Connor, Boy George. There are a lot of colorful people.
Mike Tyson.
Mike Tyson, who referred us fantastic cases. Dolly Parton, believe it or not, where we have close protection specialists and all kinds of other musicians supporting some of the best entertainers of our time. And these are fascinating relationships and opportunities. And it kind of takes me out of the nitty gritty of the DNR, the Democrat and the Republican politics, when you see the big picture and the drone or the lens is pulled back on the entire landscape of our beautiful nation and the rest of the country, as well as the world, what kind of responsibilities we have. And, again, to your listenership, I can tell you a lot of people have not changed their party affiliation from Democrat to Republican. They've voted Republican consistently in recent years, but they still have a hope and a prayer. And if we change our affiliation, the Democratic Party, again, will go from bad to worse with Mandami at the helm right now.
So what happened in New York, by the way, there was a whole campaign, and they were successful. They got a whole group of people who were registered Republicans to re-register as Democrats, because the real elections are the primary. That's the real main event. It's been happening, even though Orthodox Jews. Recently. It happened
to me in Englewood when I was running. I did 2 city council terms, then I'm in my 5th term as mayor. The mayor at the time, rest his soul, tried to run somebody in the shul against me. When they were going to split all the carpools, I then went and flipped 367 Republicans to Democrats and got absentee ballots. They investigated me because they couldn't understand how you could get hundreds upon hundreds of absentee ballots. But it was after Shabbos in the movie theater, I was flipping Republicans to Democrats and getting them ballots. And if the ballot went to their house, it didn't mean they were going to vote for me. I had to either hire lawyers to go there or make sure that they returned the ballot. So the thesis is very simple. and that is you have to be in it to win it. And you can stand on principle and kvetch on a Shabbos, but if you don't roll up your sleeves and get involved in the process, or put people that will have your back on a Monday through a Friday, then it's a bracha l'batala. It's a blessing for naught. So Democrat or Republican doesn't matter. It really matters the character of the person. And in the ethics of our fathers, you can look how I voted and the kind of things that we have. Just one anecdote you should know. There was a religious Jew who opened up a new pizza place in Englewood in recent years. And he and his wife had just moved in from Israel, was on a terrace wearing a kippah when 5 Kuwaiti students started heckling him and really threatened his life. Not only did we get the Bergen County prosecutor to prosecute them for a bias crime, we got them deported. They destroyed the apartment before they left the country. We have to step up now more than ever against hate. I walked, believe it or not, 18 times in Black Lives Matter with a kippah on Shabbos when the Black community wanted to know that they mattered, despite the anti-Semitism of the leadership in Washington of the Black Lives Matter movement. But I needed my brothers and sisters here to know that on the Shabbos, I'll walk to their church, I'll walk with them for hours, and that I need them when I need them. And right now, I have to say that
have they come
our
through?
community, in many ways, yes, in other ways, a disappointment, but I'm expressing myself, and I'm not shy about it. And I'm the walking mayor. John Lewis, in fact, gave me a beautiful picture with him and Dr. King, and he wrote to Mayor Wilds, keep the faith, keep walking. He knew I walked on Shabbos, and I had a police escort a lot of the times, but the critical experience is that you have to have something to say. 95% of politics, Zev, is being there. The other 5% is not making a mistake and doing the right thing when you're there. And the thesis is we need our brothers and sisters throughout the world to step with us. And if they don't, we're going to do this despite them.
We need alliances. I agree with you. We have to make alliances with the Black community, the Hispanic community, all different communities, because for the better, whether it's New York or New Jersey. Our guest is Michael Wilds, Esquire. He's a immigration lawyer to the stars and celebrities, but also represents everybody. And he's the mayor of Englewood, New Jersey. Talk to me, Yoko Ono. Talk to me, the Beatles. Your father wrote a book on the Beatles. You represent Yoko Ono. What's the relationship between you and the various Beatles?
So it's a wonderful experience. Amongst my father's papers, I found the file. He actually did work for George Harrison, believe it or not. And he was not only a sainted dean of a lawyer. I teach the Lenin doctrine as part of the school. I had the zchut of practicing every day of my life until last year when he passed away. But he left a tremendous legacy. Those shoes, you know, I hope to fill half of them. I still have the privilege of representing Yoko. Everybody knows she's not a citizen of the United States. She would lose face and her nationality in Japan if she became a U.S. citizen. And I've had the privilege of doing work with Sean and speaking with Julian and developing a relationship with that next generation. And I'm proud to say there's a great interest in my father's work as the chronicle of that case. And you can say I'm a dreamer, and I'm not the only one. John and Dad set forth the underpinnings of DACA. There are more than 1 million people here who have that prosecutorial discretion in their space, and it came out of the Lenin doctrine. My father did a masterful job of suing the government, knowing that there was a program there, like an iceberg, that it was hidden from the world, and then proved that this beetle was being selectively prosecuted by the president that was Nixon at the time. And he would be very upset to see the way the Trump administration is using immigration for political ends now. There is a great interest, and off the record, I can tell you that you're going to see this in film sooner than later as the story, unfortunately, regales itself. We know that history repeats itself, and a lot of what Dad went through is now what we're seeing out in the streets.
But the problem is that we have to have immigration reform in this country. You have 25 million people came here illegally. How you deal with that? is a big issue. And I think it's very popular in the United States to deal with immigration, right? It's probably one of the most important issues. And I think it's one of the big reasons why President Donald Trump got elected this time around.
And let me tell you, as a former federal prosecutor, I believe the border was porous. We have to shut it down. And there were people here that came in, insidious people who came in ways that we never would have contemplated, and that we have to stop it. But stopping it isn't an ethic, that is enforcement. The notion of comprehensive immigration reform is a dirty word in the political lexicon. But in all truth, who's going to pick the blueberries, like I said, in Georgia? Who's going to make the beds in the hotels? By forcing ourselves only to look at STEM, that's science, technology, and engineering, and math, and the professional work visas, and not embracing the creative and all the other avenues that are out there, we're shooting America in the foot. And if you take the foreign students themselves that get visas to come here, they pay tuition, and then we don't create a path for them to onboard into the workforce so that we compete against them in another economy. Even President Trump agreed that something has to be done about that. And I have to tell you that I see this from titans of industry and political leaders at the very top who consult with us all the time, that there's got to be a more effective way of keeping ourselves safe and onboarding the best talent. Otherwise, we'll see it. We see it in the fashion world. The H-1B3 visa, which is a fashion visa, doesn't work in the season that fashion needs it to work. And unfortunately, it's a real problem. So I believe that there are solutions. There are smart people on both sides of the aisle that want to see this ship righted. Yes, we had to take a breath and we have to shut the borders down, but they didn't increase a single judge. That is unconscionable. That means we don't care the way we remove people. No, we can be good with the guns and the badges, but we could also be an example, an exemplar of democracy and due process to the world, and so forth. And finally, I have to say this, Zev, a lot of the people that came here overstayed visas, couldn't go back, didn't want to go back, or can't go back. And it wasn't, because of any criminal intent or kavana that they had. They didn't have the evil intent, and they're not criminals when they overstay visas or came in legally.
But what's your position? Listen, somebody got to go to an extreme to get to the middle. That's even a Jewish concept. But what about people like Khalid Mohammed, who certainly was recently released, but somebody who is anti-American, promoting hate, etc. He was arrested, he was let go, but people made the argument, well, due process, even somebody like him. But the problem is look what he represents.
To the president's credit, he took principles that I learned in college, not even law school. Chaplinsky versus New Hampshire, the fighting words doctrine. You can't walk into a movie theater and scream fire. That's not your freedom of speech. He wasn't exercising freedom of speech as a professional rabble rouser. He was encouraging hate and violence. And no doubt this president and his team saw right through that. You can see by my politic on this, there isn't a party line. It's common sense. A person like that, unless he's an American citizen, is ripe for invasion on a legal basis. But on the other hand, we have to make sure that people do have a day in court to say their piece.
Any plans for you to run for governor or higher office in New Jersey?
Right now, the best job I have you didn't cite, and that is I'm a poppy to 8 beautiful grandchildren, 3 of which were born after my dad passed and named after him. So I'll leave that decision. Thank you. I'll leave that decision to the more important people in my family. I am very pleased with the portion on my plate. That's actually the epitaph of my late grandfather, Harry Wilds, a citizen by choice, not chance, because he immigrated here. Mizeh ha'asher samech b'chelko, who is a rich person, but somebody who's satisfied in their lot. In many ways, I feel lucky to be involved in both public service and as a lawyer, and teaching is something that is personal to me, as I met my wife in my dad's class. So I don't even feel comfortable taking a salary from the school, frankly.
Listen, you do a lot of public service, a lot of important work. I know your first book has come out, Safe Haven. Your second one should be out shortly, correct?
Yeah, they've just got the manuscript last week. We're selecting all the trimmings, and it'll be out in the next few months. But what a privilege to catch up with you, and I'm also very proud of the legacy of my brother. My parents, our parents had us outwardly facing. He as a Rav, as a rabbi, and me as an elected official and a lawyer. We're only as good as our children. And I want you to know, I'm going to leave you with a Dvar Torah. Why are we Bnei Yisrael? Why aren't we Bnei Avram or Bnei Yitzchak? Why are we the children of Israel? And that's because you never see Abraham and his grandchildren, Jacob and Esau. And you don't see Isaac, Yitzchak, with the Shvatim, with his grandchildren, the 12 tribes. But you do see Yaakov, Jacob, when he
crosses his hands
over Ephraim and Manasseh, because he actually touched his grandchildren. We're going to be judged not by the achievements of our children, but our grandchildren. And with all the anti-Semitism in the world right now, I want my children and my grandchildren to know what their father did. That somebody got deported when they tried to do something in Englewood like this. That somebody got to stay when they came to meet their father, and there was an administration that stood up improperly to it. The idea is for us to be an Or La'olam. We're not better than other people. We're chosen to light the world up.
And beautiful Dvar Torah, I appreciate that. And by the way, the grandsons of Yaakov, of Jacob, were the first Jewish brothers that didn't hate each other, that really loved each other. That's interesting way of looking into it. But we appreciate you being here with us. Look forward to having you back. Look forward to your new book, Michael Wallace Esquire, Mayor Michael Wallace Esquire, Mayor of Englewood, New Jersey, prominent immigration attorney to the celebrities and stars, but also to the average person. Well, thank you for being here with us.
Pleasure. Kolto, lovely to see you.
Thank you for tuning in to Talkline with Zev Brenner, America's premier Jewish broadcast, the pulse beat of the Jewish community.
For continuous Jewish programs, TalklineNetwork.com, or our 24-hour-a-day listen line at 641-741-0389. For past shows, you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, Instagram, and all major podcast platforms, or jewishpodcast.org. Thanks for listening to the TalklineNetwork.com.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Okay, good job. Great job, I should say.